Arch Advocate podcast for Monday, February 4th. Welcome back, everybody. And to all of my fellow sports enthusiasts, did you hear about the results of yesterday's big baseball match? That's right. John Brandy had turned in a game that it was accompanied by some controversy. Anyways, listen, today's topic of the show, we're not going to talk about football. Whatever, man. It's so weird, man, because I used to love football. I used to love my San Diego Chargers, and they are non-existent anymore. They're called by some other filthy whore name today. So we do not speak of that in the Dobson household. Anyways, in this day and age, this is what we're going to be talking about here. Truth to power. Speaking truth to power. And making sure that sweet freedom of speech is covered in preservatives, the salt that preserves it, right? These are very strange times, and one man who speaks truth to power is enough. It's always been enough. And people say, oh, there's so many people, there's 340 million Americans, there's 7 billion people on the planet, what are we going to do? It takes one person. And it's always taken one person. They're called the way seers, right? We could go into that if I'm not going to. Speaking truth to power. And at the same time, there's a concept called pearls before swine. Do not cast your pearls before swine. And for you atheists, that is a quote from Jesus Christ. Before we get into that, I'm going to give you today's devotional, which is written in the first person as if it is Jesus Christ speaking directly to us. This is a devotional by Sarah Young called Jesus Calling. Sarah Young, longtime missionary, written in the first person. Thus saith Jesus Christ, according to the heart of this book, bring me your weakness and receive my peace. Accept yourself and your circumstances just as they are, remembering that I am sovereign over everything. Do not wear yourself out with analyzing and planning. Instead, let thankfulness and trust be your guides through this day. They will keep you close to me. As you live in the radiance of my presence, my peace shines upon you. You will cease to notice how weak or strong you feel because you will be focusing on me. The best way to get through this day is step by step with me. Continue in this intimate journey, trusting that the path you are following is headed for heaven. That's today's devotional. And it's, as I said, it's written in the first person as if it's Jesus Christ, but the actual Jesus Christ said, don't cast your pearls before swine. And so that's an interesting, and by the way, that applies to free speech, and allow me to qualify that statement. And it has to do with speaking truth to power. And I will qualify that statement. Because when you read that passage, casting your pearls before swine, it's like, okay, well, number one, who's the swine and what are the pearls? Right? Because the imagery is pretty clear. If you've ever, some of you have never seen a pigsty. When I was growing up, we had we raised 2 pigs, and then we killed them and ate them. They were delicious. We used to ride, me and my older brother, Mike, we used to ride those pigs. We'd jump on their back and grab their ears as hard as we could, and then you just hang on. That was big fun, man. Swine, man. Pigs are dirty, right? And their pigsties they're muddy with pee-pee. Oh, by the way, just real quick before we go any further, I'm going to be reading an email that has some potty mouth in it. Okay, so don't let your kids listen to this one. I'm going to be quoting something that was written to me, and there is some no words in it. And so that being said, I don't want people to hear this that don't be needing to, don't need to be hearing it. Secondly, since the cork is going to be out of the bottle, I'm probably going to pepper in. I think I'm going to let the dog off the leash today for a little while. Let it run around the yard. Okay, because there's some things here. casting your pearls before swine. What Jesus is talking about there is taking your deep innermost thoughts and sharing them with people who don't care either way. Right? Don't cast your, if you, like, take abortion, for example. And I probably will be using that example later on in this podcast. Take abortion. It's like for those of you who are like, yeah, that's murder. Right? Maybe you've changed your position on that recently, where it was like maybe a year ago you would have said, well, I guess for 20 weeks, whatever. If the baby's, look, a baby can kill a mother in the womb fairly easily. Right? It happens. It happens in America, and it happens with. It's rare, but it's certainly regular, right? And maybe a year ago you would have said, yeah, I can really see the dilemma there, or whatever. And now, because of the revelation of who the Democrats truly are and what they're truly after, it's like, nope, not ever, not under any circumstances, no. I'm like that. Not a year ago, but like there was a time, it was probably more than 7 years ago, when that would have been me. I've said this before. I used to quote C.S. Lewis when he was asked about this. Now keep in mind, C.S. Lewis was asked this long before 1973, decades before 1973, decades before the MRI, right? Decades before we were able to find out what really goes on during an abortion. And C.S. Lewis was asked about abortion. And because of the ignorance of his time, he was equally ignorant on that particular subject. And he answered, and he says, well, as it is that I am not a woman, I cannot speak to that issue. Right? And that was right in his time, because they didn't know. Nobody knew. And nobody would know until the 1990s. Right? And you share your thoughts you share your thoughts on that, where it's like, dude, this is just murder, and you people are evil. You guys are talking about killing babies outside of the womb now. This is who you truly are. If you take that message to somebody who is not the kind of person that enjoys, arguing to a point. Like, if I'm going to argue with you, it's because I want to see your point of view. I want to be convinced. That's why I argue with people, and I love it. But if you're arguing with somebody, it's like they're never going to see your point of view, and all they want to do is virtue signal and stomp their feet and be a little brat. Okay, that's casting your pearls before swine. If you're talking about how Jesus transforms your heart, if you take that to an atheist, you're casting your pearls before swine, because they're just going to come back at you with insults. And it's like, dude, these are my pearls. These are the things that I hold as being of the highest value. And when you throw those into the piss-soaked dirt, the mud made from piss, in a pigsty, and a pig's just going to trample it because it has no value in it. It doesn't see any value in that. It'll literally just stomp on your pearls and drive it further into the piss mud. Don't cast your pearls before swine. Jesus wasn't saying, like, don't argue with people. Like, no, do argue with people. If somebody struggles with what you're saying, but they have the humility to come to you and say, hey, look, man, I'm really having a hard time with what you're saying, man. But like, can you clarify a few things? Can you back it up a little bit and go over it again? You know what I mean? That's somebody that's worthy of hearing your thoughts, and vice versa, right? So, in this day and age where we're living in a time where you can literally be sued, like in the state of New York, this has happened, by the way, you can be sued if you do not refer to somebody by their preferred pronoun. That's happened. And people like me are like, nope. I guess then the rules are stay out of New York, even though that resides on my home. That's my turf, America. That's my land. I'll go wherever I want. But now it's like, nah, I'm going to stay out of New York. Why? Because there's a bunch of pigs there. Pigs who now want to kill a baby at 9 months. Stay out of New York. I cannot think of a single scenario where I would go back to my home, my beloved home state of California. I can't think of a single reason why I would ever do that. I want to show my wife California, and it's like, you know what, honey, I'll take you through there, right? I'll take you, but it's going to be in and out. We're just going to pop in, stay a couple nights, eat a couple meals, go see the sunset on the Pacific, and then we're bouncing. You know? Don't cast your pearls before swine. Now, just like I was saying, like in the case of, the gender pronouns thing, there's a lot of other things where it's like, remember I gave you the example, it's like, you know, in the 1960s, black people were referred to as Negroes. And then they said, you know what, it's kind of offensive because that word is very similar to another word. So we kind of want to get away from that. We would prefer that you call us blacks. And everybody said, fair enough, you know, that's an easy transition. And then time went on, and you know, habitual race baiters, professional race baiters like Al Sharpton and those kind of people said, you know what, you know, black is, you know, that black can also mean dirty, and black can also mean like evil. Black can mean this, black can mean that. So we don't want to be called black anymore. We want to be called Afro-Americans. And then it was African-American, or vice versa. It was African-American was first, and it was Afro-American, whatever. And so please, everybody, please stop referring to us as black. Start referring to us as African-American. And everybody said, you know, that's a lot more syllables, but whatever, man. Since you asked so politely, we'll go ahead and we'll do that. Now, right? Now if you refer to black people as African American, Negro, or black people, you're a racist. The new term is person of color, which is, by my last count, 3 words. And it's like, okay, you know what, this is beginning to be too much work, but I would have almost been willing to do that if you had not insisted upon it. If you would have asked me really nicely, I would have done like we did the last 3 times and just said, all right, well, I mean, if you're going to be all polite and whatnot, I guess I'll go ahead and have to honor your request. But no, now you'll be called names if you don't, and that's where I draw the line. You don't run up to me and demand of me. You can ask real nicely and then give me the choice. And if you do ask real nicely, I'll probably do what you're asking me to do, because I belong to a culture where that idea is embraced. If you want to be referred to as, you know, like in the sodomite community, it's like first it was gay, and then it was homosexual, and then it was alternative lifestyle, whatever, and it's just like, okay, you know, if you ask real nicely, then I'll probably give you what you're asking for. But now it's like, well, now there's transgender, and then now there's gender queer, and there's all these different names, and because they're insisting at the law, they're saying, hey, we're not asking nicely anymore. We're just going to circumvent that part where we ask you nicely, and we're going to go straight to the judges and say, listen, we need a law that says if this person doesn't refer to me this way, then I get to sue them and take their money and harm them and their family. Right? Even if the individual saying the thing, saying sir or ma'am or whatever, has no idea what's going on, they can still be sued and taken advantage of. And we saw that like with the cake baker guy. A bunch of gay people went in there and purposely singled him out in an act of violence against that man. That man has a family. He's got people he has to feed. And these gay people went in there And they singled him out, and they drove past all the Muslim bakeries and all the atheist bakeries and all the, Albertsons bakeries and Vaughn's and Kroger Foods, and they went past all those, and they singled this guy out because he has a Jesus fish on his window. They said, "Make me a cake displaying some homoeroticism." And he said, "No, I'm not. You can't make me paint a picture. That's not a thing. You can ask me nicely, and then I'm going to tell you no, and that's going to be the end of it." And what did they do? They sued him. You have to take a stand these days. Now, so just before we go any further, just make sure that you understand that what I'm saying is you must make a stand. You must be clear on that. That being said, I'm going to now read you this email that I got. And by the way, when I say email, I'm always, whenever I say email, it can mean one of a number of things. It can be an actual email, a private message on Facebook, private message on Twitter, private message on Telegram. Well, it's all email to me. So this particular one came through on a direct DM on Twitter, and maybe I'll read it, maybe I won't, or tell you who it is, or not. But let me read this to you, and this in the context of what I was talking about: casting your pearls before swine, preserving the First Amendment, standing up for what is your God-given right. You were born with a voice, therefore it is clear, beyond any even hint of doubt, that it is your right to speak, because God gave you a voice. It is your right to speak and your responsibility to speak to power. Now let me read this. And I read, "Dude, mind blown. A little over a week ago, you did a show where you referred to gay people as faggots. I had just shared your podcast with my dad, brother, mom, and a couple days before. I shared it with those three people a couple days before, and this put me in a bad spot." It says, "I get the Christian stance on gay men, and it's something that I'm wrestling with God about, because I know a gay adult man since he was a child. Around 5 or 6, he was already showing homosexual tendencies. I don't see how God would create an innocent gay child if being gay was a sin. Anyway, I digress. This is me wrestling with God. I was so bummed when I heard that podcast. I had to write to my family and tell them not to listen because they and I am not cool with that." And congratulations on the proper placement of "they and I" are not cool with that. "You mentioned on your show about some dude's kids listening, and you stopped cussing, right? I think you should start listen. I think you should start saying fuck again and stop saying fag. It's a word meant to tear down and tear people down. And those kids don't need to hear you say that. You are 100% anointed to be doing what you're doing. I can't tell you how much clarity and direction I'm getting from your show. I want to share it with people I know, but I can't with you calling gay people fags. Anyway, I'm mind blown because when I first heard the show, I wanted to reach out, but I didn't because I don't want to encourage censorship. You are who you are, and who am I to tell you what to say or not to say on your show? I prayed on it a couple of times before asking God for directions. I about drove off the road on your podcast today when you said my name and said that you would like to hear from me if there was something that you said that I didn't agree with. I take that as God telling me to reach out. I'm not gonna say your name because I know a lot of the people that listen to the show, but I don't know all of them. And there's there's people in the world who are, shall we say, unsavory. So I'm just going to keep that kind of private. And listen, here's the thing. If you look up in the Cambridge Dictionary what the definition of tact is, T-A-C-T. Definition of tact. I pulled it up and here's what it says. Tact is the ability to tell somebody to go to hell and they will be glad they're going. Just kidding. That was actually drill instructor Sergeant Steele who said that. That was my one of the 5 drill instructors that I had, and he was the one who taught drill most of the time. Sergeant Steele, I miss you. Blue Eyes misses you. I want to talk to my drill instructor again. Anyways, tact, right? Now listen, this listener had a legitimate problem with something that I said. And you have to understand, like, this is when you're dealing with people, you're going to have to decide if you're casting your pearls before swine or if this is something that needs to be preserved. You know what I mean? A friendship, any sort of a union or of fellowship or whatever. So you're going to have to make those decisions in the moment. And look at what she said, right? She didn't come at me with like, hey, bro, hey, I just listened to your podcast for the first time and I totally disagree, because I get those like a lot. I totally disagree with your point of view. You suck. You should stop podcasting. You should think the way I think. You should think that, and that's ultimately what the ultimate drive is, hey, I have a different opinion and you suck if you don't have my opinion. That's a good way to get a screenshot of my middle finger. You know what I mean? F you, dude, fuck you, man. Don't come at me like that. Like, I don't need you. I don't need to hear what you have to say. You obviously have no interest in relationship building with me. Go fuck yourself. Right? I don't know you and I don't care about you. Your thoughts, your pearls, guess what? In this case, I'm the pig. You throw your innermost thoughts my way and I'm gonna stomp on those. I'll stomp them into the piss. Because I don't know you. I've placed no value in you. This is the first time I'm hearing from you. You're going to come at me with like, oh, you're wrong about abortion. You should think the way I think. It's like, I don't even know you. And therefore, I have no value in what you have to say. But that's not what happened here in this message. She slowed herself down. She even talked about it. She's like, look, man, I was praying about this. She slowed herself down and took the time to state her case. Hey, listen, man. This is something I'm struggling with. I have a friend. I've known him since we were kids. Or at least I've known him since he was a kid, because I don't know how old this lady is, but I'm assuming she meant like she was friends with him since they were both kids. Hey man, I'm having a hard time with this. Kid was 5 or 6 years old when he started acting gay, right? To where people could see like, oh, this kid, he's more interested in, Barbie dolls and, ballet and that sort of thing, He dances a little too well for a man-child. I'm struggling with this. And when you say faggot, man, that hurts, because if you were to say that around my friend, who I've known my whole life, or his whole life, or whatever, like if you were to say that around him, it would hurt his feelings and therefore would hurt my feelings. And I am having a hard time with this. As a matter of fact, I'm having such a hard time with this that I had to bring it before my God and talk with him about it. And after a long conversation, which apparently or possibly took days, this is what I've come up with. This is what I believe that God is telling me to do, and that's to write you and tell you what I think and share with you how I feel about that. right? Let me tell you something, people. If you want to change my mind, you come at me that way, right? You come at me. You come at me with your colors flying and your weapons drawn. You're gonna get a battle every single time. I'm gonna see you coming, and my defenses are gonna go up, and it's like, okay, well, I'm in fight mode, right? But if you have a legitimate thing to say, that's how to do it, right? Look, this is a tough one. It is, and just in case your dad, your brother, and your mom are listening to, I want to congratulate you on having such an awesome family member. Mom and dad, you've raised a good one. You've raised somebody who knows how to argue their point effectively. This affected me, man. You guys know I come off as a guy who doesn't give an F about a lot of things, but that's not true. I care very deeply about people. I just don't care about people that don't care about me. And that includes Christian people, atheist people, gay people, straight people, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like it's like the thing with everybody going around calling everybody a racist. It's like, okay, as a United States Marine, do you know what you're saying when you call me a racist because I'm white? Because my hair fell out and now I have to shave my head to not look like an old dude? You're like, oh, you're a skinhead. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm bald. That's the problem. I'm not a skinhead. Well, you're a racist because you're white, bald, male. It's like, when you call me a racist, what you are saying is that my willingness to sacrifice my life for my fellow Marines, right? Because Marines don't die for their country. Marines die for the Marines next to them. And when you call me a racist, what you are saying is that I was disingenuous in my willingness to lay down my life for my dark green Marines, right? Because Marines come in two colors, light green and dark green. And what you're saying is that I was not, in fact, willing to lay my life down for black Marines and Latino Marines or Indian Marines. And in fact, that those men that I call brothers, that I don't actually see them as being brothers, not equals, but blood relation, kinfolk. And what you're saying is that those Marines who pledged their lives to die for me, they would be an Uncle Tom. They would be a turncoat, a traitor to their own race if they saw me as a brother and died for me. That's a hell of a thing to say. You say, oh, Pete, you said the word nigger like 5 times in one podcast. Yes, I did. And if you took the time to listen to the context in which I used it in, you would see there was nothing racist about that, nor is there right now. And I will not allow you to take words out of my mouth. The very fact that you are insisting that I don't say this and coming at the law, trying to use the law to silence my voice, I'm going to be an end-dropping motherfucker. Because you said, because you insisted. It's a word. It's in the dictionary. It's in the history. There is an etymology to that word. It's in the history of the evolution of the English language. It's there. You should look at it. You should look at what that word means. And it should offend you when people say it, because what that word means, it's quite possibly the worst thing that you could level at a man. That word nigger, it means somebody who is so lazy that if it were not for the fact that we breathe automatically, if breathing took work, these people would be so lazy that they would die from asphyxiation. It's a horrible, horrible word. And we need to preserve that word so that when we do use it, when it is fitting, when a man, a white man, black man, Mexican, Latino, dude from India, Chinese guy, when somebody is being so lazy that not only are they a detriment to themselves, but they are harming everybody around them, laziness can hurt people. And when you see somebody like that, there has to be a word that is so severe that it wakes them up. But instead, what do we see in the black community? We see black people using that word on one another. It's a curse. It is a horrific. You want to talk about like metaphysics? I'm not talking about curse in the funny sense. I'm talking about the actual spiritual, metaphysical damage that word does to the black community, because you have your own people, your own kin, saying that word back and forth over one another's life all the time. It is a demonic curse that this segment of our society has gotten so accustomed to just breathing that curse out all over one another. And you could say, it's an evil word. You shouldn't use it because you're white. Well, I would have capitulated 10 years ago. But now that you're insisting, and now that you're calling me a racist, even though I didn't say that word before, and I just got the handle of racist anyways, guess what? Now it's back on the table. Now that's back on the table, black people. Don't you mean person of color? No, you're black people. I was born in 1973. You are black people to me. Go talk to my mom. To her, it's Negro, because she grew up in the 50s and 60s, and that's what black people were called back then. And when I was born and growing up, it was black people. I'm not calling you African Americans. That's off the table. You ruined it. You screwed that up. You asked me nicely. I gave you what you wanted. Then you started insisting. So I'm taking it all back now. That's how that works. But when it comes to this lady, she says, dude, mind blown. A little over a week ago, you did a show where you referred to gay people as faggots. I had just shared your podcast with my dad, my brother, and my mom a couple days before, and this put me in a bad spot, man. I was embarrassed. Because this kid, this dude, they all know him too. And when you say something that could be potentially hurtful to him, you're hurting my mom and dad and my brother. I can't have that. I get the Christian stance on gay men, and it's something that I'm wrestling with God about, because I know a gay man since he was a kid. He's an adult now. He was a kid then, and around 5 or 6, he was already showing homosexual tendencies. Now, I have to imagine that you're not talking about he was running up to dudes and asking them for, smooches and humping their legs or something. Because no 5 or 6 year old is sexualized. You know what I mean? Because if that were the case, then I would probably ask you to listen. Let's get a phone call in. Let's go over a few things here. Because if you were seeing sexually provocative type, or that he was being sexually provoked by seeing certain things and whatever, then that would tell me that he was not born a gay man. He had things in his house that were either happening to him, or that he had a clear path to visualize, like perhaps some pornography, which is always, it's almost always present. I had a friend that I worked with. His name was Brandon. Super nice guy. Like, we weren't like drinking buddies, but like in the workplace, there was a very large number of employees there, and he was the head IT guy. And I'm real stupid. Okay, when it comes to technology, I'm a monkey. So I had to talk with Brandon all the time, and he was always real nice to me. But he was, he was as gay as they came. Like openly, and not come and fix your house gay, but just parade down the street wearing short shorts and a halter top gay. And then he confided with me that he just found out that he had AIDS, not HIV, by the way, AIDS. This was a little over 10 years ago. Nice guy. I was really sad about that because it's like, such a nice guy. Like, he never talked down to me. Because gay people can be kind of prissy. And people who know more than other people can be kind of, like women that complain about mansplaining. It's like, oh, you have no idea. You have no idea how men treat other men. When one man knows more about the one thing and then asks for help, like another guy goes to another man and asks for help, you have no idea what real mansplaining actually looks like. You'll have to hide and just listen and just be a fly on the wall. Don't be seen, and just listen to when one man has to help and educate another man that he is not friends with. It's awful. And I didn't know Brandon, and he was always super nice to me. Super nice to me. He would always, listen, technology stuff takes me a long time to learn. And I have to learn a couple of different times. And Brandon would have to repeat himself to me, not a lot, but, anything more than one is a lot. And he was always very gracious to me. And then and then we were talking one day. You know what it was? I'll tell you exactly what it was. It was, we were at the gas station, right? The workday was over. I got in my car. I drove away. And there was a gas station the nearest gas station to where we worked. I pulled in the gas station, and it was always usually very empty at that time of day. There wasn't a lot of cars there. And I'm pumping my gas, and Brandon pulls up. He gets out of his car, sticks the nozzle in the thing, and I'm like, "Hey, Brandon, how you doing?" And he always had a big smile on his face. He had his big, stupid. He had a really round, Charlie Brown face. And he got out of his car. He had his same smile on his face. And I just, just real flippantly, very small talkishly, just said, "Hey, Brandon, hey, how you doing, Brandon?" And he just started crying. And I was like, whoa. And when people are crying, it's like, you gotta go over them. What's going on, buddy? And that's when he told me, he's like, "I just found out I have AIDS." AIDS. And every gay person I've ever known, because again, I'm from San Diego, man. There's almost 4 million people in San Diego. There's a lot of gay people there. There's nobody who doesn't have a gay friend. And every gay person or somebody who said they were bisexual or whatever, every single time, I was friends with those people, to the level where, the issue of where did you grow up? How did you grow up? What were your parents like? That, that level of friendship. Every single one of them had abuse and or massive, long exposure to pornography in their early development years. So when you say, dear listener, I don't see how God would create an innocent gay child if being gay was a sin. It's like, well, I would want to know more about this man who you care very deeply about. I would like to know more about his youth, about his first 5 or 6 years. What was going on? Did anything happen? Or were both of your parents just hardworking, salt of the earth? Did Dad have a secret porn stash? Did he have a secret life going on? Anyways. She says anyway. Anyway, I digress. This is me wrestling with God. Good. That's all there is. I'm not going to give you any answers on this podcast. I don't have anything for you because I don't know. It's a tough one for me too. Wrestle. Keep wrestling. And it may never end. You may never get to the end of it. You may not get the revelation until, your second to last breath. And so you're going to have to get comfortable with that idea. That that you may need to meditate on this for the rest of your life. That's very possible. I was so bummed, she says, when I heard that podcast. I'm sorry that you were bummed, and I understand my fault in that. I had to write to my family and tell them not to listen. I'm sorry about that because they and I am not cool with that. You mentioned on your show about some dude's kids listening and you stop cursing. I think you should start saying fuck instead of saying fag. It is a word meant to tear down, and those kids don't need to hear you say it. You're 100% anointed to be to listen. Don't say things that are going to go to my head, but I appreciate that. You're 100% anointed to be doing things, doing what you're doing. I can't tell you how much clarity and direction I'm getting from your show. I want to share with people I know, but I can't with you calling gay people fags. Here's the thing, though, and this is to you, Miss Listener, Mrs. Sorry, congratulations, Mazel. I don't call gay people fags, but this is not going to come as any consolation to you. All right. This is for the other listeners. This is for everybody else, not for you. Because as I say this is not going to help you out with your issue with me at all. I don't imagine. Right? But to everybody else, I don't call gay people fags. I call fags fags. I call my friends fags. Right? There was that Chris Rock joke he had on his special. He had that hour-long special or whatever. No, 2-hour special. And it was a derivation of another joke that his good friend Louis C.K. did. He's like, you can't call people fags anymore. He's like, but what if they're being fags? And Chris Rock tells this joke. He's like, man, I was at the stoplight the other day, and I was listening to what was the Gwen Stefani band? No Doubt. He's like, man, I love Gwen Stefani. And the song was in my stereo, and I was sitting at the stoplight, and I was listening to Bananas. The shit is bananas, bananas. And he's like doing this dance, and he's like, I was so into Gwen Stefani that I didn't notice that the light had turned green, and I'm just sitting in my car going bananas, and the guy behind me honked his horn and says, "Hey, faggot!" And he said, I deserved that. Because I was being a faggot. Words. It's like, yeah, of course I know you can't call people faggots. But what if they're being a faggot? What if they're like that picture that we saw of gay pride, where there were two men walking together, and one of the men had a little boy on his shoulders. Like one of these 10-year-old drag kids that we see. A little skinny boy like that, who was engaged in a romantic style kiss, not like a French kiss, but like a sexual kiss with the other gay dude that was standing there. All right, you're not a gay person to me. You're a demonic faggot, if that's what you're doing. That you see what I'm saying? My friend Brandon, who got AIDS, he was a gay man. Right? Now, he was a gay man who practiced sodomy and probably went to gay pride parades. I would never say the word faggot to Brandon, because he wasn't a faggot. Right? I'm hoping that this is clear to you. I don't have anything against gay people. I'm heartbroken for gay people. There is nothing in the future for gay people that's good. There's no children. Children represent the extenuation of your bloodline. Your people get to go on when you die. There is nothing but adult diapers early in their old age, like 40 and 50. Because there's this little muscle inside your anus. And if it gets worn out, it can and does pretty regularly fall out. And then you can't hold your poop in anymore, so you got to get diapers. That's what's in the future of sodomites or homosexuals, however it is that you want to refer to them. That is horrific. That is horrible. It's horror. HORROR, horror. Almost certainly. It's an almost statistical absolute that they're going to contract some sort of irreversible disease or another at some point in their life, and it'll probably be that thing that kills them early. Violence in the homosexual and or sodomite community is markedly higher than the rest of society. They are exposed to a much more malevolent style of violence than straight people. That's horrible. When I look at gay people, like Dave Rubin, for example, if you listen to the Dave Rubin podcast, I would never call that guy a faggot. For the same reasons that you wrote to me, because I don't want to hurt I don't want to hurt people's feelings that don't deserve to be hurt. You know what I mean? And of course, and I do hope that your parents are listening, and the people that you mentioned in this, because I'm hoping that this explanation of my position is coming across as like, listen, I'm genuinely sorry because of the way that you wrote me, the way that you approached me, heartfelt, covered in prayer, marching up to me, using the name of my Redeemer and using it correctly. That's how to get me to switch over. That's how to get me to stop and think about, you know, like in future podcasts, if I'm going to drop the faggot word or if I'm just going to call them a homosexual. These people that have nestled into the gay community who use children, those people are faggots. They're seeking to harm other people. Therefore, I don't have any problem saying things that are going to hurt their feelings or cause other people to look at them with disgust. Because that word faggot, I mean, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of a disgusting word. And by the way, faggot, the etymology of that word, it's literally where we get the word, the root word is fasci. It's also where we get the word fascist from. It means a bundle of sticks. Bundle of sticks can't be broken. But as that word in Latin, you know, moved its way across Europe and finally got to England and turned into the word faggot, what it meant was a member of our tribe that is just a burden. That's where that word comes from. It's you're more interested in acting like a lady and yet you can't have kids. You want to be treated like a woman. And you want to be you want to have the uses of your body be that of a woman, then you're not going to be hunting and farming. And because you're not a woman, you're not going to be having any babies either. So you're just some person that we, the rest of us, have to go get food for and keep feeding you until you die of old age and singleness. You're a burden to us, is where that word faggot comes from. It literally means like a big bundle of wood that's just hard to carry and it sucks and, you know, digs into your back. It's like you're just a burden. That's where that word comes from. By the way, people say no, it meant because they used wood, to burn gay people, and that's what little sticks, that's why English people call cigarettes fags or faggots. That's why English people call that, that's what they call cigarettes. No, that's not actually true. it morphed into that over time. But before that was true, what I just said was true. So when it comes to these things, man, it's like, look, it's a heck of a thing to speak truth to power. Because you have to watch your words and you have to make sure that you're not casting your pearls before swine. This lady wrote me this whole message, email on Twitter. She wrote me this whole message and I absorbed it because she's contacted me in the past. I'm aware that she's in my community, and even if she hadn't, the way that this was written, that's how if you think a relationship is salvageable, if you think somebody is redeemable, then you have the responsibility to go to them and make your case. Not talk about your feelings, right? Like not be insistent upon your point of view, but to just say, hey, look, man, here's what you're doing. Here's where I stand on this. I'm really having a hard time with this. I had a conversation this is yesterday. As you guys know, on Saturdays I read to kids, the Albanian kids. I read to them in English. And right now I'm taking them through a Bible study of like who Jesus is and was, and the prophecies throughout Scripture about Jesus, whatever. And I'm talking about this, and I'm talking about Moses right now. And I was making the point about, when Moses was born, there was a declaration from the empire that ruled the world in that day to kill all the babies. And Moses was one of those babies that made it. And 80 years later, he shows back up as the deliverer. And when Jesus was born, there was a declaration from Rome to kill the babies. You say, no, it wasn't, it was Herod. It's like, yeah, but Herod Herod had to go to the Roman Empire to get permission to kill all of the male children that were under 2 years old. So the declaration came from the country that ruled the world at that time, the empire that ruled the world. Kill all the babies in the land of Israel. Kill all the male children. 33 years later, Jesus saved the world. The deliverer arrived. And in 1973, the nation that rules the world declared it's okay to kill babies, and just last week they said, now we can kill them even at 9 months, and now we can kill them even outside of the womb. I was explaining this to a room full of children. Not children, 18, most of them are 13 to 18, and then there's a couple of little ones. And you could say, Pete, that's way too heavy for a group of people like that. And it's like, well, you're absolutely right, and we are out of time. God has never taken this kind of information and failed to respond drastically. It's coming soon. So I'm talking to these kids, and I may have told you there's another lady here in town. She works with the Peace Corps. I have no idea why the Peace Corps is in this town. I don't know what they're doing here. Probably nothing good. But she was watching my son. She was watching my son, keeping an eye on my son Caleb while I was giving this talk. And she had overheard some of the stuff, and she wrote me later on, and she goes, I really have, and by the way, she's an atheist. Like she's told me, like, yeah, I don't believe in any of this stuff, and the only reason I'm here at this church is because I'm genuinely interested in making sure these kids know how to speak English properly, because it'll give them a leg up in life. I'm like, all right, cool. But she's never made any bones about it. Like, I'm an atheist. She comes at me and she's like, it's not appropriate for you to be talking about abortions to those kids. And it's like, wait a minute. I'm in church. This is where my people are. These are Christian people. I'm a Christian people. These are my people. You have made it clear that you're an outsider. I don't give a damn what you think. And I don't want to hear your bullshit about how you think it's okay to kill a baby that's outside of the womb or 9 months old and now at any point ever. I don't give a damn what you think. Go fuck yourself. Don't come at me telling me like, oh, I have a more enlightened position. This is what all the smart people think, and therefore you should think what I think. Man, fuck you. I don't think that, and I don't care that you're entitled to your opinion. The fact that you're entitled to an opinion does not obligate me to do anything. When you come at me like that, like, oh, you gotta think what I think. No, I don't. No, I don't. I have to speak truth to power. That's what men do. And I could be wrong. I'm not on this one. I could be wrong on a great many things. And this, dear listener and your family, like this could be coming off horribly offensive to all you guys. And if so, like, then I've failed to properly articulate my thoughts, because I'm actually very grateful that you wrote me this letter, and I will be watching my mouth from now on, making sure that when I use these kinds of words that I'm clear in my intention, that I don't call gay people faggots. I call faggots faggots. And I call murderers murderers. Hey lady, you didn't terminate your, what do they call it? You didn't terminate your pregnancy, and you didn't have an abortion either. You murdered a baby. That's what you did. Oh, Pete, this might hurt somebody's feeling. Yeah, if you're a baby murderer, guess what? I have friends who have had an abortion, and they came out the other side, and they said, like, I just committed murder. So guess what? Guess what word I don't use around those women? Murder. I don't say murder around them because I know it would hurt their feelings deeply. Because they already know. You know what I mean? Like, I do have, dear listener, I do have the tact. Yeah, because tact doesn't actually mean to tell somebody to go to hell. I am tactful in those situations. With those women, those broken women who realize the significance of what they've done, and they've gone before the Lord and suffered, and they're haunted by that to this day. I don't say that around those people. I don't use the word, I don't say abortion is murder around those people. For the very reason that you're talking about. And I don't call gay people faggots. I call faggots faggots. And I don't call black people niggers. I call niggers niggers. You have no idea how many white people I've used that word on. Because let me tell you something. Methamphetamine, that is an epidemic in San Diego. And it's a very white people drug. Not exclusively, but very white. A lot of tweakers. Very white. And I look at those people and I say the N-word. Because that's what you are. It's like, dude, you're so lazy that you're dangerous. And I don't care about you. You can be a danger to yourself. I don't care if you tweak out and your brain explodes and you have an embolism and die. I don't care if that's what you do. If that's how you want to treat your life, you go ahead and do that. The problem isn't that. It's like, you're so lazy. You're so lazy that you're a danger to me and my children. I can't have you around. You're a nigger. Because that's what that word means. And I only just started using that word again because it's like, well, you said if I used that word that I would be a racist. And so I said, okay, I will not say that word because I am not a racist. And then you called me a racist anyways. And then you insisted that I was a racist anyways because of the color of my skin. Guess what? The N-word is back in play. And I'm going to use it liberally where it applies. And guess what? The black community, they agree with me. Chris Rock has told a number of jokes on that very same set. Go watch Chris Rock's go watch not his last special, but the two of them before that. Go watch both of those. There's an entire segment. Chris Rock goes up on stage and he's like, I love black people. And there's two kinds of black people. There's black people, and then there's niggas. And niggas gotta go. Right? So even the black community is on my side on this issue. Because that's exactly what Chris Rock was saying. There's an element in our community, is what he was saying. There's an element of people in our community. They're just bad, and they're bad because they're lazy, and their laziness affects the rest of us. And in the white community, the same thing is true. There is a segment of white people who just sit around and do meth and steal people's phones off of their table at Starbucks so that they can go turn it in for money to buy more meth. And it's like, dude, now you're affecting, and now I'm going to have to fight you if I can catch you. That's going to put my life in danger. And if I die, that's going to affect my sons. You see how the progression goes? Your laziness is a detriment to society, nigger. White or black or Chinese or whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyways, from now on, I will be, if I ever use the F word, and by F word I mean faggot, I will be qualifying that. I'll be qualifying who it is that I'm addressing when I say that word, the way that I just explained, the N-word. By the way, the N-word is actually necrophilic. What if somebody called you a necrophiliac? Wouldn't that be more... By the way, I'm totally stealing from Benjamin Owen's comedy, but wouldn't that be the worst thing? And isn't it worse than, let me steal from Louis C.K.? It's like, dude, when you say the N-word, you're making me think the word nigger. And you're being a coward by not just saying it and making me think it without you having the responsibility of saying it. You know what I mean? I don't fall for that kind of wizardry. But I digress. That's the show for today. Speak truth to power and be precise with your words. They're powerful. They're powerful. I threw a powerful word around willy-nilly. I didn't put as much thought into it as I should have. And now a listener has written in and said, hey, listen, man, I need you to think about this. I want you to think about this. And listener, I have. And I will change my ways. I'm not going to remove that word from my dictionary. But I will be very much more careful to paint the whole picture in the future when I do use that word of who it is that I am trying to hurt and who it is that I am trying to expose when I use that word. And before God, I tell you, I hope that's enough, because your letter really reached out. It really touched me. It really got me thinking about my rights to use certain words versus the responsibility when other people are listening. That's the show for today. If you want to support this show, now that I probably have reduced my listenership down to 4 or 5 people, if you 4 or 5 people would like to support the show and keep it going, you can do it at Arch Advocate. PayPal.me/ArchAdvocate. PayPal.me/ArchAdvocate, which you can also find on my website, archadvocate.com. That's the show for today. Thanks you guys so much. We'll talk to you tomorrow.